Hello, and we are continuing on with our look at improvised weapons. I apologise for the fact you have to see my legs. It is part of it being ridiculously warm. I'm suffering, so clearly now you have to as well. Anyway, let's get on with what we're actually doing. We're going to be talking about short, inflexible weapons. So something like this, which just in case you're wondering, this is not a truncheon, which would be completely illegal to own in the UK. This is what's called a fish priest. It is used for battering fish over the head when you are fishing to deliver their last rites. The fact that it happens to be modelled on a 1930s police truncheon is neither here nor there, but just so we're clear from a legal point of view. So this is what the archetypal weapon would be for anything that is short and inflexible. I have an array of short and inflexibles that I will go through as we're talking about this, but this is kind of the implement we're talking about.
We include you in this.
Yeah, I am. I like to think I'm more short and flexible, but you know, we'll see how it goes. So, one of the things I have to be very aware about this is there's no sharp edge to deter my opponent grabbing this. So if I take a stance similar to this, the first thing that's going to happen is he's going to grab the weapon, and now we both have a useless weapon. Yeah, I no longer have any benefit to having the weapon. So the first thing I need to be aware of, I need to keep this back and out of the way. And normally I'll keep it down at my waist, pointing forward, so that if there was something coming in, I can then deliver something with a sharp thrust here, or I'm going to keep it back by the side of my head, again looking for an opportunity to bring it into play to strike and then get back out again. The minute I leave it floating around, it's gone. So I've got to be aware of that when I'm using it. And that's really the starting point is either I'm going to block and stab, or I'm going to hit. If my opponent is armed, have a weapon. I'll take something else. A wooden spoon. If my opponent is armed, however, I've either got to be very careful to make sure how my parry works, so if an attack's coming in, I'm looking to catch the arm before I deliver a strike myself, or I'm actually going to have to use the baton against his hand or against the baton to control before I start coming in with some kind of attack of my own. What I'm trying to do ultimately is either get strikes into a thrust into the soft bit of flesh. I can potentially break ribs, clavicle, and obviously head is always good for a knockout. If I'm just using this as a weapon, but that is not a very self-defensive way to use a short inflexible weapon. It's a very good way if you're actually just fighting with it, but it tends to lead to the other person being severely broken, and that gets very hard to defend in a court of law. Let's moving on. Can of deodorant. I'm just going to keep working through. So what instead I want to be doing is looking at taking control of my opponent and using this more like the police would use a baton for restraint rather than bludgeoning. Although I always have that option as a backup if I need it. So again, looking at the situation, you might come in with an attack, however you want to do it. I'll be looking to get towards the outside. From here, I can potentially twist the arm open a bit. I'm just lifting that a little, just to expose so that I can press this in under the armpit. And even with this, it's quite uncomfortable, isn't it? Yeah. From here, I can start to control you because I have an arm. If that's not working for me, I can always. These lefties make things difficult for demonstrations. I can always come round and
Well, you did it right hand.
well, then I'm really confused. Maybe I'm being left-handed. Anyway, it's all confusing. From here, another option I've got is if I've got hold of my opponent and I don't want to go for the armpit, if I can dig something into the kidneys, you can normally, again, get that level of control over your opponent and kind of make them move around where you need to. What have we got here? Fire poker. I should say I just went through my house and found random items that we had lying around that fit this idea of short. I'm not going to use them. There isn't a way I can use this without actually doing a lot of damage. What else have we got? Let's move down a little bit. Hammer. Now, obviously, I could go in, but again, very hard to do anything self-defensive with that. But I can, if I turn it upside down, still employ this as a short and flexible. It's still going to allow me to do all the things that I might want to do. So again, attacks coming in, I may well want to stop it, gain control. And again, if I can press that against the back of the elbow, I can get that elbow lock, lean down, and that's really uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yeah, down the sweet spot.
Yeah, and again, that gives me that moment of compliance. Equally, what else we get? We can get to fairly standard. Rolled up magazine, yeah, is enough. Now it's not going to do me much on the defensive side because this will crumple quite easily. But in terms of attacking, I've still got plenty coming in. So if I can get in and stop that initial one, this to the throat is still going to have an effect. Stomach is still going to have an effect. Yeah, I can still quite happily take this over and start using it to tie up. This is still going to work. Even though it's paper, it's not going to rip. I might also give them a really nasty series of paper cuts across them. Equally, just something, a hardback book. Yeah, it doesn't seem like an obvious option, but picking up the closest thing I've got is that kind of short and flexible. So again, this time if an attack's coming in, I'm quite happy to stop this with a book. And you can see how this is going to give me those kind of levels of control that I'm looking for. Into the leg, that's still going to hurt. Anything into the face is always a good one. So let's switch back to something fairly simple like wooden spoon. I can also use this if we get into situations where things become a bit more grappling. So if you're going to grab me, now obviously I've got to be worried about what's happening over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move towards him and shut down that side of his body just because I need to stop that punching into me. From here, if I place that across the back of the wrist and put my thumb across and twist, I can get a nice little bit of pain compliance. If I want to, I can then twist to put both ones on, and I can really I'm not going to do that. But that is, yeah. You stop thinking about the fact you've got something in the other hand because your pain is focused on there. And it becomes how quickly I can put him on the floor, or he can remember he's got something to kill me with. But I can go for these kind of things, even if we're looking at things like where you may get me in a headlock, just reverse headlock there, that kind of. From here, I obviously have a problem that I'm now very open to any form of attack. Plus, I might be able to put my hand up. Anything coming in against that is going to get broken really quickly. So instead, if I do have something, I can ram it in the back a bit, but mostly I'm going to, sorry if you can get the headlock on, I'm going to come up across here, and you can see already this is an unfortunate. From there, I can place under the chin, and instantly now, if you try to hit me, that's getting a lot more awkward. Are you still okay? Yeah? So even with a wooden spoon, I can start to use it for leverage in such way. So that's kind of just, as I said, there's a lot in there, but to kind of go into some of the ways we can use different things that are short and inflexible as a weapon to give us an advantage over an equally armed or indeed an empty-handed opponent. So hopefully you get the idea of where we're going to be going. The next one we're going to look at is going to be the long inflexible, or one-handed inflexible. So that's going to be, we're going to be looking more at kind of cane fighting when we come to look at that. And as I said, by the time we've gone through this over the next couple of months, you'll be in that place where you can pick up anything and go, it's like one of the main items that we've been looking at, and then you've got some ways of using it. So until next week, take care, and we'll catch you then.